It's all about that first 3 seconds. It doesn't matter if you're subscribed to me now. I don't care if anybody subscribes to the channel. All I care about is that you watch the next video you see in our recommended.
Those first 3 seconds, crucial, right? But there's more to keeping you hooked. Now let's dive in to see what really holds your attention.
The thumbnail will stop somebody scrolling, and a title will convince them to click. And then the hook will ensure that the person sticks around for another few minutes on the video. And then the meat of the video has to start doing some storytelling.
In today's episode, we're joined by Rob Wilson. Rob is a YouTube expert and the face of vidIQ, a platform that helps content creators grow their YouTube channels. As a content strategist and video coach at vidIQ, Rob creates educational videos on topics such as YouTube growth strategies, algorithm insights, and best practices for increasing viewership. He has become a prominent figure in the YouTube community, guiding creators with actionable tips and industry knowledge. His role at vidIQ focuses on helping creators understand data-driven strategies to maximize their channel performance. In today's episode, we'll dive in and learn from Rob about best practices for SEOing your video content on YouTube, as well as how video content can positively impact the organic growth of your website. Welcome to the show, Rob.
Thank you for having me, Eli. I apologize in advance if you hear any jets flying around. One just happened to come over my house as you started the intro. So perfect timing. And you mentioned a word there that triggers me a little bit, but that's cool. Don't worry about it. I always like to challenge it when people call me an expert, because I like to describe myself as a passionate YouTube educator with, wisdom and knowledge to share. Yeah. But there are so many routes to YouTube success that, potentially what I talk about might not work for every creator, but they may find another educator who's like, chef's kiss, this works for me. So I think YouTube education can be, as well as there are fundamentals, I think there's a very subjective discourse around it as well. So I want everybody to take what I'm going to share, in the next hour or so, more kind of, conversational chat. Maybe you can try this, but maybe it doesn't work. That's cool. At least you tried it. Yeah. I kind of want to always emphasize that I don't feel myself as if I'm, the de facto authority on YouTube. But the way you described me, I feel as if you should be handing me over an Oscar, because that was a pretty good resume that you sold me on there.
Yeah, well, as I was saying before, when you first jumped on, I feel starstruck having this conversation, and I'm so grateful that you responded to my reach out saying that you'd be willing to do this, because when I started my YouTube journey for this podcast, I didn't really know a lot about how to optimize, how to cut it into short clips, how to do shorts, how to do engaging intros and all of that. And every time I would go to YouTube and type in, hey, how do you do this for YouTube? 99% of the time you would pull up. And there's other great creators out there, not saying that you're the only one for sure, but you are the one that me personally, I have learned from on how to create engaging content on YouTube. So I really do appreciate the chance to chat with you today and hopefully learn a little bit more. If the listeners out there haven't gone and looked up Rob on vidIQ, I'd encourage you to do that, because he has some really, really good and engaging content that would be really valuable to you.
Can I ask you an interesting question regarding how you discovered, I guess, me? Because you say, 99% of the time when you were searching on YouTube, you would find me. I'm curious if you would give me the same answer in 2024. Do you discover me as frequently, or is it more of a mix of YouTube education content creators these days?
I definitely think there's a mix, but because I was first introduced to you when I started doing it, if I see your thumbnail, I'll click on you more so, right? But so I'll do a search and then I'll look for a handful. And if I see your thumbnail, your content is easy, it's simple, great content to take notes from, and just step by step. Which is why I wanted you on this podcast, because in our strategic section, we go through that step-by-step sort of format, teaching people. And so, yeah, to answer your question, when I would go and do a search, at first I would see you. Well, I don't remember what I searched in the beginning. I don't remember if it was thumbnails or optimizing the title or whatever it was. But at first I started listening to your content, and then as it got a little bit deeper and I got a little bit more knowledgeable and I had different questions, those searches, you would still appear in them. Maybe not like number one, but if I saw your thumbnail, I had already trusted you. You had created that brand for me that made me want to go to your videos as opposed to some others.
So I want listeners to really think about some key parts of Eli's answers there, because hopefully they'll come up again as we're conversing, especially about SEO. And I guess the other reason I asked was because I feel as if there was somewhat of a first mover's advantage for vidIQ and YouTube educators from maybe 5 to 10 years ago. Because when I first started on YouTube, it was just Tim Schmoyer and Daryl Leaves. Like those were the two, I guess, godfathers of YouTube education. Yeah. And then people like Nick Nibbon, myself, Daniel Batal, Brian G. Johnson, TubeBuddy, they came along as almost like a second generation. But now I think there's just been this enormous proliferation of education about YouTube. And I think now, Eli, if I started a YouTube channel today, nobody knew me, I think the competition would be so fierce. I don't know if I'd be able to break out and build the channel that we have done with vidIQ, but maybe that's just my own insecurities about where I am these days.
I definitely think it's harder now than it would have been a decade ago, but me just starting, I'm nobody special, and I feel like I'm growing okay enough to be happy with it. I obviously don't have tens of thousands of followers or whatever, but I do see an uptick. I see a trend, and I think where a lot of people give up, especially even in podcasts, the stats say that most people don't make it past podcast number 3. Whether it's like,
wow, as few as 3.
They post 3 and then no more after that. And so I think, after doing 30 plus podcasts, I feel like I can understand why. It takes a lot of time. It takes time to make it sound good on audio. It takes time to make it look good and do great intros in video. It takes time to do descriptions. It takes time to, create blog content or cut out the shorts or to do the editing in all forms. And if you don't have some kind of process to help make that go smooth, either by yourself or hiring somebody. I have my nieces help me do a lot of the upfront editing, and that takes a lot off of my plate up front. And I can see how people would give up on YouTube and or podcasting if they don't have, especially if they have, most people who start have a full-time job, and then it's like, hey, I'll do this on the side. And if they have a family and other hobbies and things they're working on, I can see why it would be more difficult these days to be consistent, which I think is a big key in getting better. I know that I've heard a lot of people, I think it was Mr. Beast even said, put out 100 videos before you really know what's going on. Like put out 100 videos, then go back and analyze. You'll learn every single video up to those 100. But if you stop at 3, you're never going to get better. You're never going to learn where your mistakes are and stuff like that. So I definitely think it would be harder these days, kind of circling back to your comment, but I don't think it's impossible still. I still see the growth going, and I see the consistency is where people struggle the most.
Yeah, I think 2 things that haven't changed are, and I assume this is the same for podcasting or any sort of new creative media. You've got to find out whether you actually love what you do, because I think a lot of people love the idea of YouTube, being a YouTuber or having a podcast, but until you've actually done it, as you say, maybe 30 times and for 6 months, to the point where you don't have just that immediate joy and passion of just doing something for free. It's like you have to reach the point where, regardless of audience and finance, it's like, am I going to make another YouTube video today, or am I going to record another podcast today? And you say, of course I am. I love doing this. Like, even if just one person is listening and it positively impacts them. So I feel as if people need to go through that rite of passage almost before they start to think about, who's my target audience? All right, yeah, I need to just tweak this thumbnail to make it a little bit better. Or, maybe for podcasts, where do I insert that call to action segment to get them to sign up for a mailing list? Yeah, I still believe that ensuring that you love what you do is most important, because if you become successful at it, you're going to be doing it for a long time. And also, as you said as well, as Mr. Beast says, do 100 rubbish videos first. Nothing beats experience. I can I've made 1,500 videos on the vidIQ channel now about education, and I'm fairly positive that some people have watched hundreds of those videos and never actually pressed record and made a video. And to all of those people, I can tell you, like, you know, it wouldn't make me happier, and this is going to sound a little weird, Eli, but it wouldn't make me happier if a listener stopped right now this podcast and just did something creative and published it. And then he can come back to the podcast afterwards.
100%. My wife always says progress over perfection, right? So people sometimes they have this like paralysis analysis. Is that the word? Yeah, paralysis analysis, where where they analyze and they learn, and they like my first one's got to be the best. I don't want to make a mistake. And they see some people put out one video and get thousands of views, and other people, most people though, 99.999% put out their first video and get like 3 to 5 views. And if you're not willing to like push through that and just get the progress over the perfection, let me give you a good example. My friend Alex MacArthur here locally here in Utah, he was on the podcast in the beginning, and he just posted on LinkedIn the other day. And he and I have chatted about this a good amount in the past as well. He has a 15-year-old son, maybe he's 16 now, but a younger teenage boy who really wanted to be on YouTube. Like since he could remember, he wanted to be a YouTuber. And Alex was like, I don't know if now's the time or whatever. Maybe about a year, maybe 2 years ago, he finally said, okay, go ahead, figure it out. He got on YouTube, and for almost a year, like just ran into a brick wall, and just like nothing worked, nothing happened. And then about a year ago, he pivoted into a different topic, which if you're familiar with the Oculus Quest, a really popular game, and me and my kids play it and love it, is Gorilla Tag. And so he started doing a YouTube video on our YouTube channel on Gorilla Tag, and it's been about a year, and he just went over 100,000 subscribers. And when I talked to him 6 months ago, he was at 20,000 subscribers, and he was making more money off those 20,000 subscribers than most adults do here in Utah per month. But it took him a year of like really hitting a wall and not really, right? He learned from that. And so when he pivoted into a different topic that he was passionate about, and not to mention it was perfect timing in the Gorilla Tag sphere, I guess. There were a handful of people out there doing it, but he decided to jump on. It was perfect timing for him, and he has this awesome community and doing really well. So that success story doesn't happen for everybody, but the point of that is that you're probably going to have to find some frustrating times throughout the first 100 videos before you learn and make that pivot that is successful.
Yeah, passion, perseverance, and persistence. And my nephew is a huge fan of Gorilla Tag, and I had a Quest 2, and I gifted that to him on his birthday. And then like a week later, my brother sent a WhatsApp video, and it was just my nephew just doing that.
Yeah.
I know that's terrible for the audio listeners, but like YouTube Gorilla Tag, and you'll see what people do in it.
Yeah,
and it's
very
energetic.
It is. At first, it was really hard for me to play as this like old guy, but my kids loved it, and I ended up when the Quest 3 came out, all the Quest 2s went on sale, and so I bought a handful of them. So we have 4 quests, and after school every day, my kids come down and we jump on and play for a half hour, and they keep playing a little bit longer. But fun game. Kids like it, so it was a great niche for him to get in. But Rob, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? What do you want to be when you were little, and how'd you go from there to where you're at now?
Yeah, I did sidetrack the beginning of this podcast, so let's get into my autobiography. I am from the UK, specifically a place called Halifax/Huddersfield. It's in Yorkshire, and to give you a bit of, I guess, cultural reference, imagine me as one of the Starks from Winterfell. I have that type of natural accent. But I have found that that's diluted quite a lot that have been on YouTube. And I have wondered one day if I should just go back to talking in my very thick Yorkshire accent and see what happens to the audience. When you ask what I wanted to be when I was younger, the 3 things I can remember were, and I'm sure this was very similar for most people of my generation, was an astronaut, like a Formula One racing driver, or weirdly a checkout operator at a supermarket, because I like to add up until I went to secondary school. And then when numbers turned into letters, that's when I kind of fell out with maths. I always had a creative instinct. I did a degree in English with creative writing, thinking that I would be maybe like a video games journalist. But it didn't happen. And I think one of the reasons it didn't happen, and I think this is going to resonate with a lot of people when I get around to that part of the story, is as well as having the qualifications and having some talent, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was also an element of networking, and like, it's as much as who you know as opposed to like how good you are and what you know. And, we're talking about very early internet days, and I just didn't have the network sort of contacts, and I was very introverted. So, to reach out to people and try and take those opportunities always felt very nerve-wracking. And so after trying to get into creative writing for a number of years, it just kind of fizzled out. And I did what a lot of people do who can't find their calling in life, is I became a teacher for a couple of years. But then YouTube came along, and that just seemed to completely level the creative playing field. And I call it like the democratization of distribution of stuff, of content, because you can go onto YouTube and make a video, and it's available to billions of people for free, and you only need an internet connection to do that. And if you imagine the world 25 years ago, when there wasn't any internet, that is just like an incredible revolution of creative expression.
Totally.
So this was in 2008. I started making videos. I didn't take it very seriously for a long time. Some of my first videos actually got copyright claims and strikes because I didn't know what I was doing, and I was jumping topics all over the time. And then I got a piece of tech. Maybe one listener knows this piece of tech. It was the Asus Transformer Prime, and it was a tablet that connected to a keyboard. And I thought, what I'm going to do for the next, let's say, 3 to 6 months is I'm going to make solely content on that piece of tech. And suddenly I realized the concept of supply and demand on YouTube, whereby pretty much nobody else was covering this piece of technology to the detail I was. And as you mentioned earlier, like I became like the brand or the authority on this piece of tech. The videos were terrible at that time. But because no one else was covering the technology in that detail, I was able to carve out a little bit of an audience. So my views went from dozens to hundreds to sometimes thousands. But, technology is temporary. And I kind of didn't find my next piece of tech until a search term, which then I really leaned into. And that was how to record your iPhone screen. This was back in 2015, when at the time it was virtually impossible to do. Apple did not make this easy, but there were a few hacks and exploits that allowed you to do it. And so I made one video on that topic, left it for 6 months, and did just lots of other random stuff, which were getting hundreds of views. But this one video, how to record your iPhone screen, was getting thousands of views. So I was thinking, can I make a follow-up to this one topic? And the answer was yes, about 150 times. So I don't know whether you can believe this or not, but I managed to make an entire channel based on how to record your iPhone screen. And each video would get thousands of views, which was incredible. And that's when I came into vidIQ's orbit, because I was starting to use their tools at this point. Yeah. And one of the side projects I was doing on the channel was a piece of tech in 60 seconds. Weirdly, I was making shorts before they were even a thing. And one of my short videos was how to use video tags, or like how to copy video tags from other videos, something along those lines. And, vidIQ helped me do that. And so I made the video, and I can still remember to this day, it's got about 4,200 views. So not earth-shattering in any way, shape, or form. But the tweet I sent regarding that video changed my professional career because I sent a tweet out saying, "Hey, vidIQ, I just made a quick video about one of your tools. Hope you enjoy it." Within 24 hours, the CEO of vidIQ, Rob Sandy, had contacted me and said, "Love your video. Uh, are you interested in doing any freelance work?" And it's like, "Oh, this is interesting and curious. Yeah, why not? I'll charge $25 an hour because I have no idea how much I'm worth. I can't place any value against what I do. So yeah, $25 an hour to make a couple of short tutorials about vidIQ." And I think this is where the trust and the relationship really kickstarted. He said, "No, you're undervaluing yourself there, Rob. I'll pay you $45 an hour." So like to have that feeling of value and worth to someone was incredible. So for about a year and a half, I just did some casual freelance stuff for vidIQ. But around 6 months into that freelancing, Rob contacted me again and said, like, we love what you're doing. Would you be interested in joining vidIQ full time? And that was like the real whoa moment. Like I can now take this passion and this channel that I'm building up and actually turn it into a career. Because I think at that point I was probably maybe earning a couple of $100 in ad revenue and again another couple of $100 in the freelance work. And I said, yes, I would love to, but my work situation at the time wouldn't allow me to do that because I'd transitioned from being a teacher to working for a software company who had moved me out to Canada. So that was like another incredible experience at the time. I was in Vancouver, amazing place, just really expensive. And so I only had a visa which would allow me to work for this company. And I said that to Rob, and he said, "Okay, what needs to happen to help you work for vidIQ?" And I said, "I'd have to go get permanent residency in Canada." And that took about 8 to 9 months. And Rob waited, he was patient, and he allowed me to do that, which was incredible. And then I said, "Okay, finally, Rob, I've got this permanent residency. It allows me to work for anybody in Canada who I wish." And he said, "Okay, let's get you on board." And that was in 2017, October 2017. And so what I remember is I started working for vidIQ in 2016 and we had 1,500 subscribers and, maybe 10,000 views from an ad. And that's where my journey began. And now I think we're at 1.96 million subscribers, but more importantly, I think almost 200 million views. And to go through that journey, which I guess is I guess that is my entire life's work there. Certainly my professional life's work. I never thought I would achieve anywhere near the success I've had, not only on YouTube, but with vidIQ as well. And, to this day, that relationship continues. And hopefully we're going to hit 2 million subscribers as of time of recording this podcast in around about 6 weeks.
Wow.
Whew. Any questions, Your Honor?
That's an amazing story and a real testament to the consistency part we were talking about earlier, where like you have been doing this for so long and you learned in the beginning and it took, time.
Yeah, I should have mentioned 2008, I think was the first video I made. Started taking it seriously in 2012 and then connected with vidIQ in 2016. So it's like almost a 10-year journey to go full time. And now I've been working for them for what? Over 8 years.
Yeah.
Now.
And you're still in Canada?
No. So yeah, God, I missed that bit out. So what my wife and I decided was that Canada was very expensive and we wouldn't be able to afford anything there. So we made the pretty big decision to move back to the UK. And my parents are getting older as well. So, we need to be around for them in, the medium to long term. But I think ultimately, I would like to maybe move back to Canada and retire there at some point because we got citizenship. That was the one request I made to my wife is I'm willing to move back to Canada, as amazing as it is. But I do want us to get citizenship to allow us, the freedom to move back there in the future.
That's awesome. What a cool story. Do you feel like, so you wanted to be a writer, you were a teacher a little bit. When you were a teacher, were you like an English teacher? What type of a teacher were you?
I taught English for speakers of other languages, known, I think, colloquially as ESOL in the UK. And, it gave me that feeling of fulfillment, like these people had come from diverse, but also sometimes traumatizing backgrounds. They were either coming to the UK for work or they were asylum seekers. And in terms of being a teacher, they were like the perfect students because they were highly motivated, and I never had any discipline issues either. So that was perfect, beautiful, and most of them like did really well and passed. And again, that gave me a good feeling to know that they were going to take what I taught in the class into their work and life experience in the UK. But I will confess that it was somewhat of a means to an end. I didn't want to be a teacher full time per se, because the teaching aspect of it was fun and enjoyable, although exhausting. But the paperwork and the resources behind it weren't necessarily good. And I'm going to be honest, there wasn't much money in it, and it was government funded, so you're always worried about how that a change at a level that you just can't control means that you might not have a job next term, and it might be very difficult to get another job unless you go into a private sector.
Do you feel like having that educator's background? So I know the teacher piece is one thing, but being a teacher, if you're a really good educator, you teach from the heart, you learn to tell the stories. Do you feel like that lent well into you becoming a good educator on YouTube, or was it the journey on YouTube where you had to take a step back and say, how do I communicate better? Did your background play a part in that, or was it a learning process once you were on YouTube?
I think it probably did, subconsciously, without me realizing that what I'd learned as a teacher made me a much better presenter and communicator on camera. But I still feel in some respects that I have a lot more to learn about communication. Like, one of the things I have to do even today is pretty much script all of my content and deliver it to camera in a way that I feel is concise, because I don't know whether you noticed or not. And again, this is me being very self-critical. I felt that I rambled a lot and just went on and on about my life's story. And I would like to be able to take those conversations and maybe condense them down to maybe 30% of what I just said, but have it be far more valuable, which is why I think I script a lot of things at the moment. I mean, it's interesting that, literally 10 minutes before this podcast, I was desperately trying to finish a video about, I don't know if you're familiar with this, and I don't know how well this update will age, but YouTube made some announcements about something called YouTube Hype, whereby you can like a video, but then you're going to be able to hype it, and videos will get hype points, and videos of different sizes will get different hype points. So it will help to promote smaller channels. They'll get more hype points. And this is exactly what I mean, Eli. I can't remember the question you asked, and now I'm rambling about YouTube hype points. But yeah, I think, when I make videos and I know they have to be between 5 and 10 minutes, then yeah, being able to have that ability to communicate an idea and a thought, not only through my voice, but now also through editing and visually, I think it probably came from the teaching background.
Yeah. Well, I don't have a problem with you rambling on. I think that the podcast format allows for that, whereas when you're trying to be more educational, you need to be more scripted, right? Rob, what are you currently working on right now that excites you? I mean, I guess you kind of just mentioned that the one video. Is there anything else that you're working on right now that excites you?
That is a good, challenging question at the moment, because I felt this maybe for a year or two now, that I might be reaching a period of transition. I can't for the life of me remember who said this now. It was the former YouTube liaison, whose name escapes me at the moment, but they made a video which suggested that the average lifespan of a creator is between 5 and 10 years. And now I'm right in the middle, or coming to the end of that cycle. And I am not going to lie, there are only so many ways you can tell people how to get 1,000 subscribers, how to monetize, and how to hack the YouTube algorithm, which is ostensibly what we do on the vidIQ channel. And so I never like to describe it as burnout. I almost feel as if it's accumulated fatigue, which is now kind of suggesting to me that, Rob, you've got this pretty significant landmark coming up, which is 2 million subscribers. Do you still want to be doing the same thing when potentially we hit 3 million subscribers, which would be maybe in 3 to 5 years? And I'm not sure I want to. So funnily enough, this podcast is one of the attempts by me to break out from just doing another YouTube video. Like, I want to have these more casual conversations and get better at just taking all of this knowledge and wisdom and being able to talk to you and others about this. So is there anything that I'm working on right now that excites me? I'm not sure, but I am kind of excited about what the future may hold if I push myself to do that, because one of the things I tend to do is go back into my happy, safe space, which is just to make another video. I'm very guilty of making far more content than I watch and consume on YouTube. And, you know, it goes back to our earlier conversation about how the YouTube education sector on the platform has really matured over the last couple of years. So I see some creators who present in such a way or edit in such a way that just leaves me, you know, speechless. Like, how on earth did they do that? Their content is so good. How am I still getting all of these views when we have these creators making these fabulous, you know, 1.5 hour courses on the platform? And here I am making a 3-minute video about when you should tell people to subscribe on your video. So I'm feeling in. I'm getting itchy creative feet. I feel as if I need to do something different to just remind myself of tremendous privilege and honor I have and how lucky I am to do what I do every day.
I think it's a perfect time for you to go through this too, because I think the podcasting sector is growing substantially. And as we talked in the beginning, a lot of podcasts don't make it past 3. And I think, you know, whether it's you being on other people's podcasts and having these casual conversations and educating people in that way, or you doing your own where it's very similar format, I think that having the knowledge of YouTube that you have and the personality, I think, fits really well to podcasting. I think you could really capitalize on that and do some damage. And when I say damage, I mean good.
Yeah, let's see whose future can I damage on podcast? that should be maybe the tagline of my podcast, where we damage your future
in a positive way
if you wish to be damaged.
Absolutely. Well, let's jump into the tactical section. This is my favorite part of the podcast, where I get to pick your brain and really learn from you. And so imagine I'm a business owner out there listening to this podcast, and I, you know, maybe just started a YouTube channel or have been thinking about it to help my brand grow. This is where I come as a business owner to learn how to elevate myself online. So both on YouTube as well as using videos on the website to, you know, improve engagement and conversion and all of that. So maybe let's just start kind of at a high level, and then we can dig into more specifics. What advice do you have for me as a business owner just getting started on YouTube? What direction do I go? I'm overwhelmed. There's lots of stuff going on, lots of videos, lots of education, and I actually want to take action. Where do I start?
Right. So I think the best place to start for a business starting a YouTube channel is, weirdly, I've got to be careful about how I phrase this, because, you know, the common advice is treat YouTube like a business. But I worry that if you're already a business, you may pivot too hard into the business side of things. And I wasn't hired, you know, quote unquote, by vidIQ to sell our products. I was hired by vidIQ to share the common journey of the creator. And I think that's one of the reasons why we've grown to be so successful. You know, you can probably point to maybe 10 to 5% of our content where we're actually mentioning our tools or pushing promotions. The rest of it is all, what are the biggest challenges and struggles and goals and dreams of our target audience, which is a creator which is under 1,000 subscribers. They've probably been on YouTube for maybe 3 to 6 months. They've maybe had like one piece of success, like a video got 1,000 views instead of 20 views. And that has motivated them to keep going, but they've not had any success since. And now they're just completely confused and befuddled about, why am I not still growing? And I think when the creator gets to that point, they're starting to search on YouTube for solutions to this. And that's maybe where we're discovered, because we're targeting the challenges that creators have. So, you know, from a top level point of view, there are some things that I probably mentioned in there that you'll be familiar with, like target audience, and then maybe developing a value proposition and having all of these things that really help you connect with the viewer without yet thinking about how you're going to monetize that viewer.
Yeah.
In my opinion. And I think that that is very subjective, because I will definitely say that I am a content creator first and a marketer or a seller a very distant second.
Mm-hmm. So a lot of the journey, whether it's in SEO, like writing a blog post or doing a YouTube video, is the research, the keyword research, the topic research, all of that. Where does somebody go to start that process?
Right then, this is where you may hear some frontier gibberish from me. When I started at vidIQ, I was all into keyword research, tags, making sure that my descriptions were fully optimized. And I had somewhat of an epiphany about this a couple of years ago, whereby during COVID lockdown, our channel really enjoyed some growth, as you would imagine, because people had lost their jobs, they were stuck indoors. Let's start a YouTube channel. They were finding us. But after the world opened up again, our channel was just declining. We were just seeing our search traffic decline, and there was nothing that we could do to arrest it. And I was trying to figure out why that might be. And again, one of the general concepts of YouTube is that around about 70% of content is discovered through recommendations, not search. So the typical journey of a creator might be, especially for a business or a utility channel, that they'll get discovered through search, because they'll just have that one video that really, really hit the audience. You know, like my how to record your iPhone screen, you know, that one search term. But if you think that you can continue to ride that gravy train forever and ever, you're missing out on building those closer relationships with your audience. And so I think the example that I use is, if I make a video about how to write a good title for a YouTube video to get more views, that's fairly keyword rich. It's a lot of SEO, but it's quite functional. It's a bland title. Somebody may find it through search and then they may watch it. Cool. But what if I completely re-engineer the title? So the content remains the same. It's about how to write good titles, but it's wrapped up in a packaging along the lines of small channels, double your views in 5 minutes with this, right? What we're doing there is we're targeting a specific audience that we want to speak to. We're giving them the solution that they want, which is to double their views, and it's going to be done fast. Now, usually people want things doing quicker or for less money. So we can tap into those common traits. And what we found is when we packaged a video in a different way, but the content still had kind of the same value, a lot more people were clicking on that content, and our traffic switched completely from search traffic to browse traffic. And now I think we get most of our views from browse, which kind of shouldn't make sense. But here's where finally I can tie back to what you said much earlier. If you watch a video that you find useful, what's going to happen is that YouTube is going to acknowledge that in your watch history. So the key thing for you is that your next video emotionally grabs that viewer, because what's likely to happen is that maybe they found a video from you in search, but then 2 or 3 days later, they're going to see one of your videos on a homepage, but their intent or their current watching session may be completely different. They're not in a how to write good titles mood, but how to double my views in 5 minutes as a small creator, that's going to catch my attention. So in the terms of like frontier gibberish, this is what I'm talking about, in that you built a little bit of trust and awareness of me through perhaps search, but now you likely watch me a lot more on browse and suggested, because YouTube's trying to find content that you like and serve up more of it. And, it doesn't matter if you're subscribed to me now. I don't care if anybody subscribes to the channel, even though, we are trying to get 2 million subscribers. All I care about is that you watch the next video you see in our recommended, because I haven't subscribed to a channel for years at this point. But I know that if I watch a video and I enjoy it, it's going to recommend it to me next time I'm on YouTube, and I'll choose whether or not to watch it.
So you're saying, so you do need to do keyword research.
Keyword research is still really important. Like, it's understanding the language, the jargon, what your audience is talking about, the shared lyrics. It's almost like a song. Like, you'll know the famous verses from songs, so you'll know like the most popular keywords, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend hours trying to crowbar that into the title and the description, and especially the video tags.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as the video tags, you should spend 30 seconds on that when you're uploading the video to YouTube. And, shameless plug, you can use vidIQ's free tool to copy tags from elsewhere and then just insert them into the tab box.
So keyword research is important in the beginning, but you still need to have that emotional attachment so that when you show up in a browser, in the browsing mode on the homepage, that you capture their attention to that, right?
I think so. I think if you have a passion for a topic, instinctively, you'll probably gather most of the keywords that you need.
Mm-hmm.
But keyword research can help determine whether or not phrasing something as passive income versus, how might there be another way to phrase passive income? Earning money while you're asleep.
Yeah.
Now, passive income is maybe the keyword, but earning money while you sleep might be the emotional tie to that. And you can find out through keyword research which is the most desirable type of packaging to have in your content. I like to use the word packaging as opposed to SEO these days.
Okay, that's fine. Maybe taking one step back from the keyword research and saying, okay, I know if I know the topic of the video that I'm going to work on, I can do the keyword research, work on the emotional piece as well. But like, how do I know what to record on? Like, how do I know if I own a car detail shop that my audience is asking, does it matter if I have tinted windows? What about leather seats? Do I need to do, X, Y, and Z, whatever? How do I find the overall topics that I need to start doing videos on?
Yeah, so that is where I think audience research, which could be tied into keyword research, comes into play. This is the idea of creating your ideal audience avatar.
Mm-hmm.
So you're asking questions such as, is my typical viewer male or female? How old are they? Do they have any children? Are they married? Or like, do they have just like a ridiculous amount of disposable income? If you're a car detailing channel, or you want to be, you can probably answer some of those questions yourself to a certain extent, but then comes the research. You put car detailing into YouTube, watch like a few videos, and then again, the next time you come onto YouTube, they're going to be recommending all those similar types of videos, and that's where you can get an idea of what YouTube is serving up to you. And that's then you can do like a bit more nuanced research. There is a concept that's kind of developed over the last couple of years called outliers, whereby you should try and identify videos from channels that are an outlier for them. Say, for example, a channel usually gets 1,000 views per video. They have one outlier on the channel which has 10,000 views. That's intriguing to research. Like, was it the title? Was it the idea? Was it the packaging? And there is, I guess, no shame, especially when you're starting out, in borrowing ideas that are already successful on YouTube, but contorting and twisting them into your own interpretation and your own voice. Like a simple example might be, Mr. Beast has done the $1 boat versus $100 million boat. For car detailing, it might be spending $1 on detailing a car versus spending $10,000 on detailing a car, and then comparing the differences. So you're taking an idea from some of a niche, but you're just injecting that into your own niche and topic. So I feel as if those ideas and concepts are fundamentally more important than the specific keywords that, again, you're including as you optimize the video.
That makes sense. So while we're on the topic of like the browse section and the homepage, the other important piece to that is thumbnails. Walk me through how you would recommend a business owner does a thumbnail that's captivating.
Okay, so let's look at it from this simple, eye-opening opinion. Every single potential viewer will see your thumbnail, but hardly anybody will see the last 30 seconds, 30% of your video, and nobody will ever see your video tags. So if that helps to, educate you on what might be the most important things to look at, it's a start. I would also recommend this just as a general idea. If you're making your thumbnails as you're uploading the video, it's too late. So try, as a concept, this can be very hard, and I sometimes find it's very hard to do myself. Try making the thumbnail before you press record, if that's possible, and also coming up with like 3 or 4 titles as well. Those are like, I guess, the mindset approaches to thumbnails. But when you get to the construct of a thumbnail itself, I would say spend twice as long on your thumbnail as you currently are. So if you're spending 15 minutes on a thumbnail, spend half an hour on your next thumbnail, and make your thumbnails half as complicated as they currently are, because what people tend to do is over-explain in their thumbnails. They try and tell you everything, whereby it's best just to try and convey the strongest emotion or the strongest concept. So again, going back to the idea of how to write a perfect title, the way to overcomplicate this is to write a bad title on one side of a thumbnail and then a good title on the other side of a thumbnail, and have view counts and before and after and whatnot. And already the potential viewer is having to spend 3 to 5 seconds trying to decode a thumbnail. Whereas a simpler option might be you just have a before and after, and one has like 10 views and another one has 100,000 views. You don't need to explain the why at that point. You just need to get them emotionally invested. And then, in the first 10 to 15 seconds, the hook can reveal a solution, which is writing good titles. Also, think about how many elements there are in a thumbnail. When I mean elements, let's say if you look, well, this is again not good for an audio podcast, but right now, Eli, you can see me. I'm one element. The background is another element. But then you can also see like there's some text up here. There's these YouTube icons to the left and right of me. There's probably too many elements already. So try to get it to a main object or person of focus, a fairly clean, plain background, and then maybe some text or another object. So we're talking about 3 or 4 elements at most there. And then always remember, the final thing to remember is you may be designing your thumbnail on a 42-inch widescreen PC monitor, but everybody else sees it at about 2 inches by 1 inch. So like the detail you add to a thumbnail may never be seen, and the more colors you add just ends up being muddy and washy. I mean, we could obviously go into the thumbnail conversation in minute detail, but I think those are the fundamentals from what I can remember.
So that's great advice. And I think there's probably two different types of audience that are listening to this. One is like brand new. I'm just getting into YouTube. Everything you just said, it fits perfect into that. The second one is I have a YouTube channel. I have lots of videos on there. How often do I go back and analyze the thumbnails and decide, do I redo it to see if I can like get it going again? Does that still work? I know a couple of years ago that used to be a strategy.
So I think the test and compare A/B thumbnail testing has helped with this a little bit in that I'm always thinking about the next video rather than trying to rescue and save all content.
Okay.
Because it can be hard to do that typically. But what you can do is, let's say you're continuing to try variants on new videos with thumbnails, and you find a particular style of thumbnail that works really well, and you think, oh, I'm going to use that style of thumbnail going forward. Cool. Then maybe think about previous videos which you think are still valuable today. That's really important. And, not all videos are valuable today as when they were published. And then also check the analytics and say, well, this video had some really positive comments. The people who actually watched it found it really valuable. And it has, higher than average view duration. The human response and the data response suggests that there is still something here in this video. So what I am going to do is devote some time to making a thumbnail for this video. Or the alternative is you say, I'm going to remake this video with the skills I've improved on the whole as a creator, but then also applying that new thumbnail design as well.
I love that. I love that. Instead of going back and saying, now I have data showing this works, I'm not going to go and redo thumbnails for the last 50 videos. I'm going to go look at the videos that have done well and then make it better, because now I'm 50 videos into it. I'm better at making videos. I understand how to script better. And then I'm going to use that thumbnail format on that one. I like that. I like that approach.
I should also add as well, it doesn't mean that you should delete private or unlist old videos that haven't performed well. I think a lot of creators, especially when they start out, are worried that their channel's made of glass. And so like any mistakes, that's it. That isn't the case. I've seen many channels that have been resurrected. And if you look at Mr. Beast's first 100 videos that he still has on the channel, they are atrocious, but they're still there. And now he's the largest content creator on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So when I go to Google, a lot of times I will do a search, and sometimes a video will pull up and it will answer. It'll be like the middle of the video from here to here, and it'll answer that exact question. So my assumption is that's based on the chapters that are happening within the YouTube video. The question is it important for me to go in and put those chapters in? So for example, I ask you, how do you do keyword research? You answer, I make that a chapter. Do I do that manually? Is that important? Or do I allow YouTube to sort of find those and put them out on their own?
Yeah, good question. I don't have a definitive answer on this because I believe that, I think they're called video snippets, or they were in the past. They've been on Google, I think, for longer than time stamps and chapters on YouTube. I think what I would do is, if you are very intentional and you think you have a good chance of ranking externally, even though it's Google search, it still is external from YouTube. I would be putting in the timestamps to essentially match the common Google search term, and you can use Google Trends for that, I think. But I also think there's a certain element of what you say in the video as well. So the actual script, you may want to ensure that the script is really nailing and addressing that potential Google search, because it feels to me as if YouTube has been on like just another level of um, recommendations for viewers for a decade at this point. I don't for viewers for a decade at this point. I don't think the traditional style of SEO has been important on YouTube for, I would say, at least 5 years, because I think we're all aware now, given how AI has developed over the last 2 years, at least in public, that YouTube is able to analyze every single frame of a video and figure out all of the objects in that video and like every single thing that a person says and detect the emotion. And I think it's more through those, sometimes millions and billions of, YouTube says they use billions of signals to determine how to recommend content. So it's almost like, I call this, I've used this phrase before, but I feel as if it's a bit wishy-washy. Like it's content engine optimization. I think people need to reassess how different aspects of your content influence a viewer. So again, we talk about the packaging, the title and the thumbnail. That's the thing that's going to stop somebody scrolling. The thumbnail will stop somebody scrolling, and a title will convince them to click. And then the hook will ensure that the person sticks around for another few minutes on the video. And then the meat of a video has to start doing some storytelling. And all of these things aren't really connecting back to what I think is the traditional sense of SEO. But I realize now, Eli, your original question was ranking in Google search. So I think, yes, there is still some element of making sure that you timestamp your videos and you do it manually. You don't let YouTube do it automatically, because sometimes the timestamps from YouTube are really weird and don't seem to make any sense, or sometimes spoil the video if you're trying to tell a story within it.
That makes sense. Let's talk real quick about shorts. So I've seen a lot of shorts with
nice pun.
with I've seen a lot of shorts with podcasts, which obviously captivate me, and then you have the option to say like, here's the full podcast if you want to go there or whatever. And then there's some that are very specific. You do a lot that I'm sure you script, and you say, here's the 60-second script. Are both important for businesses to like capture the authentic self as well as the strategic self? Or where do you recommend businesses go with using shorts?
I think I can only reply to that in from a personal point of view. And I'm also going to say something which is going to kind of derail everything I've just said about search not being as important as it used to. But I'll get to that point. We found that when we try and clip our long form content, be interviews, live streams, they just don't naturally fit into shorts, because either we're too rambly, or it takes too long to get to the point. So what we've tended to do is just remake the things that we think are useful in a piece of content into a short. Because I feel as if shorts, it's very much a different discipline. And you can't really think about the SEO or the thumbnail, because you can't really make thumbnails for shorts. But you kind of can, but it's awkward. Mm-hmm. It's all about that first 3 seconds. That is the first 6 words that you say are the most important things for a YouTube short. Having said all of that, YouTube shorts are fairly new, and now they're also searchable, and they come up in search results. So sometimes you do a search and you'll see a shorts shelf. And what I've discovered in the last year is that whenever we do something with a lot of search intent, we get evergreen shorts that get views a year after they were published, which I found astonishing. Like, I thought that shorts were very temporary. You'd make a short and it'd be on the shorts player for like a week or two, and then it would just die. But with our search space shorts, which are literally how to get monetized, or how do you get 4,000 hours of watch time,
Yeah.
how to get 1,000 subscribers, all of the stuff that we were making, 5 to 10 years ago in long form, we're remaking again in short form. And because I don't think there's that same desire to make search-based content, or YouTube just hasn't made that content very searchable in the past.
Mhm.
I think there's a supply and a demand issue. So if you are a business and you want to maybe find a bit of a hack to some good traffic, then yeah, it may be worth dedicating some time to making very intentional short search-based shorts.
I love the direction that YouTube is going with shorts. I think a lot of people thought when they came out with shorts, they're like, how is this going to be different than Reels or TikToks, right?
Yeah.
But because of TikTok, the TikTokification of our world, the attention span of people has really shrunk, right? And so I love the fact that you can do a very educational piece on whatever topic you're doing with a short, but it's more educational. It's not a dance like TikTok. It's not something like that. And then if they want more, they can go to a longer form video. So I love that. Rob, where do you see the future going in YouTube and SEO?
I think we're going to continue towards this trend of the human emotion and the connection and the relationship that you can make with your audience being the primary driver in discovery. I think there's always going to be a place for utility and education and people just needing answers to questions. But I think the onus is more and more on the creator to potentially get discovered through answering a question, but then inviting that viewer into it's kind of like your tribe, your values, your morals, your outlook in life. It's not just about how to, I mean, this is going to sound really stupid, but it's not just about how to tie a tie. It's how to be very fashion conscious so that you get the right interview and you meet the right girl when you go to the bar, and you have more things happen to you in life that have a positive impact because you learned how to tie a tie from that person when you were searching 3 or 4 years ago. It's like it's getting people on that journey, and so I think just treating content as what is the best word I need to use so that when Google next indexes my video on my site, that it ranks higher. I think it needs to be a lot more sophisticated than that. That doesn't really give you any concrete answers, but I think that's where YouTube wants us to go. I think they're always trying to build a platform which isn't susceptible to exploits and hacks and shortcuts. They want it to be a place where I believe the audience is king, even though it is driven by an algorithm, but the audience determines who should be recommended on YouTube. And I need to find a 30-second way of explaining all of that in the future. So that's my challenge after this podcast.
That's great. I think, I mean, you're spot on. I think just like Gary Vee always says, the market will decide, right? So you could put out a bunch of stuff, a bunch of products, and if the market doesn't like it, you need to pivot. You need to go somewhere else. So Rob, I really appreciate you taking the time to jump on the podcast today. You have a wealth of knowledge that, if you guys are listening out there and you have other questions, go search up vidIQ, go search up Rob on YouTube, because I have about 100 other questions that I wanted to or could potentially ask that we could spend multiple hours on, probably each of them diving into the intricacies of optimizing your YouTube videos and creating the right the hooks and how to do your descriptions and all sorts of things, how to use it on your website to get more engagement. So if you haven't already, go search for Rob on YouTube, get to know his content. He'll answer most of the questions you have with it. Would you say you had like 1,500 videos that you've done on your own, right?
Yeah, there's probably an answer to most things other than playlists. I've never figured out how playlists work on YouTube. I'm terrible at them.
Well, maybe that's the next thing we'll work on then.
I'm not sure. It's a bit of a bland, boring subject. Okay.
That. Well, again, I appreciate you taking the time to jump on the podcast today.
Yeah, a pleasure having me on, Eli. I'm thinking like let's build up some engagement here for the podcast. Let us know if you enjoyed this podcast and if you would like me on for a part 2, and fire in the questions, and I'd love to answer them. If you're sorry for taking over your podcast here, Eli, but yeah, if you want me to damage the potential of the business owners listening to his podcast, as we agreed earlier on with that potential tagline, bring it on.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. In fact, if you want a second part for Rob, let's leave the comments, send me the questions, and we'll get him on for a second part, because there's so much more that we didn't have time to go over. So I appreciate that offer, Rob. I really do. And to everyone else who's listening out there, we'll talk to you guys next week.